Welcome to the Natural Super Kids podcast, where you will discover practical strategies to inspire you to boost the health and nutrition of your kids. I'm Jessica Donovan, a qualified naturopath specialising in kids' health, and I want to make it as easy as possible for you to raise healthy and happy kids. Let's get into it. Hello and welcome back to the Natural Super Kids podcast. We are finishing up our immunity theme that we've been talking about for the last few weeks on the podcast. And today I'm going to be talking about supplements. Does my child really need supplements for a healthy immune system? I'm going to be answering that question for you in the podcast today. And as you can guess, it's not a yes or no, black or white answer, and I'm going to go into the reasons why that is. So in last week's episode, we chatted about a holistic approach, our approach here at Natural Super Kids to immunity and infections in children. So go back and have a listen to that if you haven't already. And prior to that, we talked about ear infections. We talked about fever, specifically, the downsides of fever medication such as paracetamol and ibuprofen. So make sure you catch up on those episodes if you haven't already. And this is the final episode in our immunity series. So let's talk about this big question of, does my child really need supplements? Or maybe even you as an adult need supplements for a healthy immune system? And I will say it depends. In an ideal world, we wouldn't need to supplement with nutrients in nutritional supplements to power the immune system. But unfortunately, because the majority of our listeners, I'm sure, are living a Western lifestyle with a Western style diet, and that is contributing to the fact that maybe supplements are warranted. And so I want to talk about some of those factors to start with in our Western diet and lifestyle that mean that we may need to look at nutritional supplements, herbal supplements to support immunity and avoid infections. So the first one is diet, of course, and there's many different factors here when it comes to, diet and why our Western diet is potentially lacking in some of the things that our immune system needs to function well. So our Western diet, often includes processed foods that are maybe high in sugars, low in essential nutrients, lacking in fiber. And these sort of dietary choices can lead to nutritional deficiencies that compromise the immune system's ability to fight off infections. So remember, the immune system is powered by nutrients. It needs nutrition to do its job properly and to perform optimally. So if your child is lacking in nutrients in their diet, then, potentially they might need to supplement with nutritional supplements, or look at overhauling the diet to include more of those immune boosting essential nutrients. The second problem with diet when it comes to our Western diet is a lack of diversity. So many of us are consuming a limited variety of foods. Even when we look at, the fruits and vegetables, for example, that are available in the supermarket, it's the same ones over and over and over again. Unless you're kind of heading to the farmer's market or to local farm gates or growing your own food, there is that overall lack of diversity in our diet. So this can lead to inadequate intake of essential vitamins and minerals and antioxidants that are necessary for a strong, robust immune system. So a diverse and balanced diet is crucial for optimal immune function. Diversity in the diet is also really important when it comes to the gut microbiome and having a diverse gut microbiome which supports immunity. So while you're listening to these factors that are affecting or negatively affecting our children's immunity, think about how you can flip them. So, including more diversity in the diet, making healthier dietary choices. And, generally our Western diet is lacking in vegetables and even fruits that are, and these foods, the fruits and the vegetables, are rich in vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals and fibers that play a really important role in supporting immune health. So when we're talking about our Western diet generally, most of us aren't getting enough of the vegetables in our diet. And when we're talking about children specifically, that can be even more of a problem. So including more, vegetables generally in our children's diet is really important, and fruits as well. The other thing that's going on within our Western diet and lifestyle is something called nature deficit. I did a podcast recently. I'll make sure the link to this is in the show notes, all about nature deficit disorder. So, really to put simply, kids have a reduced exposure to natural environments because they're spending more time inside. And that's really limiting their exposure to natural environments. And this reduced contact with nature, with the outdoor environment, can negatively impact the development of their immune system and, again, of their gut microbiome. So that healthy immune development, the healthy gut development, really does rely on exposure to diverse microbial environments which are outside and in nature. So that is a factor as well. And then there's stress. Now, stress is obviously a big problem for parents, but it's also a problem for our children. There's the academic pressures, there's the extracurricular activities, there's the screen time, and so many more factors that are contributing to increased stress levels in children. And, stress negatively affects almost every part of our health. But when we're talking about the immune system, ongoing stress, chronic stress can suppress the immune system and make children and adults more vulnerable to infection. And then there's the environment. So environmental toxins, unfortunately, our kids are being exposed to more toxins and chemicals within the environment than they ever have before, particularly, kids that are living in urban areas. But here at Natural Super Kids, we do online consults. So we're often talking to parents that are living in remote areas on farms. And, that brings its own challenges in terms of, chemicals and pesticides and things that kids in those environments may be exposed to as well. So prolonged exposure to pollutants, to chemicals, to toxins can weaken the immune system and make kids more susceptible to infections. And then if we're doing, if we're making changes, healthy changes, and doing a lot of the right things, we're including healthy food in our kids' diets, we're making sure there's diversity within our kids' diets, we're encouraging them to spend more time outside. There are also those things that we don't necessarily have complete control over as well. So, things like modern farming techniques and methods are a big factor when it comes to our children's health overall and impaired immunity. So, the way that our food is grown and farmed, can be contributing to impaired immunity in children. So things like pesticide exposure, reduced diversity in the diet. Modern farming practices often prioritize the production of a limited number of crops. So they're doing, huge fields of the same crop rather than lots of diversity within there. So that leads to a reduction in the diversity of foods available, like I was saying before, in the supermarkets. So this flows on to result in a less varied diet for children. That can lead to an inadequate intake of essential nutrients, and these nutrients are required for optimal immune function. And then there's the issue of soil depletion and nutrient loss. So intensive farming methods such as monocropping and excessive use of chemical fertilizers can deplete soil nutrients. So crops grown in depleted soils will have a reduced nutrient content compared to, produce that is grown on an organic farm or within a sort of small local farm, within a farm that focuses on permaculture. And so, these sorts of big picture problems can be affecting our kids' immune system as well. Modern farming methods often use antibiotics in livestock, and overexposure to antibiotics can disrupt the gut microbiome and compromise the development and function of the immune system as well. So, that is just to name a few of the big picture issues that are going on that we don't necessarily have full control of. Of course, there are things within our control when it comes to, maybe shopping at farmers markets as opposed to the supermarket, where we know that those small scale farmers are taking care of their land, more holistically than the huge farmers that are producing the food that end up in the supermarkets. We can choose organic where we can. We can grow our own produce where we can, even if it's just a small amount of our own produce. So there are things that are within our control, but I just really wanted to explain some of those concepts of why it may be a good idea to supplement your kids when it comes to a healthy immune system. And when we kind of zoom in on a smaller level, we know that so many kids have fussy eating habits and picky eating habits, which makes this whole problem, worse. So fussy kids can easily develop nutrient deficiencies such as, iron deficiency, zinc deficiency, a lack of overall nutrition in their diet, which will certainly impact their immune function in a negative way. So we want to be aware that the immune system is powered by nutrients, and it's also influenced by our children's lifestyle, by their environment, how they spend their time, the different toxins and chemicals they may be exposed to within the home or on a kind of wider scale out in the, overall environment. So there are a lot of things that can contribute to our kids having impaired immunity. So not all children will need to take supplements to boost or support their immune function. But as you can kind of gauge from what I've been talking about, so many kids can really benefit from supplementing with nutritional supplements and maybe herbal supplements as well, particularly if they're fussy, they have a, reduced range of foods that they eat. They're not eating a lot of fruits and vegetables. They're eating, high amounts of processed packaged food. And I do want to stress that I'm a huge advocate of making those foundational changes first and then filling the gaps with supplements if necessary. So we want to be working on improving their dietary intake, their nutritional intake through food. We want to be working on that healthier lifestyle of getting them outdoors more, which is, as I said, really important for that healthy immune development and microbiome development, not to mention that really important sunshine nutrient that they get from being outdoors, which is vitamin D, which has a big impact on our kids' immune system as well. So we want to be working on, those foundational diet, environment, lifestyle factors, and then looking at supplements to fill the gaps. So it's really important to note that the immune system is complex. It's made up of cells and tissues and organs and, multiple cells and multiple organs that all work in a very sort of delicate balance. And, what we do need to be aware of is that those cells and tissues and organs do require nutrients to function well. And so, we can optimize the function of, for example, certain immune cells that come along when they are informed that there is an invading organism, such as a microbe or a bacteria or a virus, to, do their job, to fight it off, to kill it. And so these cells that are powered by nutrition. So it's really important to know that, but it's not one kind of way to boost or support every child's immune system. It really does depend on those factors that we've been talking about: their diet, their environment, their gut microbiome, their health history, whether they've got any allergies, what their medication history is like, whether they've got any chronic or complex health challenges that might be going on. For example, we know that kids with allergies and atopic conditions such as asthma, for example, can have more challenges with their immune system and need that extra support. So it really is important to look at your child individually, and hopefully you've been able to highlight some of those areas that could be improved in terms of, their diet, their lifestyle, and their environment. But it is really a good idea to have an idea of those nutrients that are helpful in supporting the immune system. So things like vitamin C are probably fairly well known. Vitamin C is commonly associated with immune support. It plays a vital role in enhancing the function of various immune cells and promoting the production of antibodies. Zinc is essential for healthy immune function as well. Zinc also has antiviral properties. And there have been, studies to suggest that zinc supplementation helps to reduce the duration and the severity of viral infections in children. Vitamin D, the sunshine nutrient, is crucial for immune health. Vitamin D is really important for the strength of the immune system, but also the balance of the immune system. So kids that do have allergies and atopic conditions can really benefit from vitamin D, whether that's through more sunshine exposure or through supplementation. But vitamin D deficiency increases the susceptibility to respiratory infections, and vitamin D supplementation, if warranted, helps to reduce the risk of acute respiratory tract infections in children. And then there's things like probiotics. Probiotics is such a huge topic, and not all probiotics are created equal, but kids that do have gut issues or are constantly getting sick can really benefit from probiotics. So probiotics are beneficial bacteria that support gut and immune function. And there are certain strains of probiotics that help to reduce the incidence and severity of respiratory tract infections, and optimize the function of the immune system. I've talked before how important the gut is, and the gut microbiome is to a child's immune function. We often see kids that are struggling with recurrent infections, constant sickness, can really benefit from probiotic supplements or more probiotics in their food. And like I said, it's, important to cover those bases first, in terms of, what foods could we add to optimize the microbiome, the gut microbiome, and then potentially look at supplementation as well. So I hope that's given you a really good idea as to this kind of grey area and question, does my child need supplements for a healthy immune system? The answer really is, probably supplements can benefit your child, but it really does need to be looked at on an individual level. And we want to be working on those foundational things first. We don't just want to be loading our kids up with nutritional supplements, herbal supplements, homeopathic remedies without thinking about how we can optimize their diet, their environment, and their lifestyle for healthy immune function. Okay, that is my little spiel for today. I hope that was helpful. And I'm looking forward to returning next week with some guest expert podcast episodes. So stay tuned for those. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. Head on over to our website, naturalsuperkids.com, for the show notes for this episode, as well as a whole heap of inspiration to help you raise healthy and happy kids. I'll see you next week.